The Fellowship of the Yokes. Hello, I'm Kendall Bryan Hunter, author of the book Consider My Servant Job, and this is Come Follow Me, Get to the Point, where I always show up, I always come prepared, we never take roll, and just bring your own refreshments. Lucky Charms left over from St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Forgot to do that. Yeah, it's unhealthy food. You shouldn't be eating that. There's other healthier options. Oh, by the way, this is how you say to pinch in Ukrainian. Shipka. It's the SHCH. Shipka. So, was that another alarm? Oh, it's just telling me to do what I'm doing right now. I'm sorry. I'm off to a rough start today. So, come follow me, get to the point. We're doing New Testament stuff. So first of all, in this section, Christ talks about John the Baptist, and this is material that I covered a little bit earlier. So just go back there and watch the earlier video. Let's get to the thing that's going to rub people really raw, and that is Jesus Christ damned cities. He puts a curse upon these cities as he's this imprecation. Sorry, I didn't pronounce it. I'm doing too many languages. I show up to work, it's English, Spanish, and now Ukrainian. So he curses cities. And is that accurate? Does a loving God curse cities? We'll read 3rd Nephi chapter 9, where he talks about the destructions among the Nephites, and then form your own opinion. Pay attention where Christ says, I did all this stuff. So Theodicy, defending God. Does a loving God punish evil? Read Alma chapter 42, where that's discussed, the nature of God's punishment, eternal punishment. Is it unjust for God to punish people? Another question that comes from this discussion about Jesus damning cities is, isn't God's love unconditional? Well, you never read that expression in any of the scriptures, that God's love is unconditional. In the Book of Mormon in Moroni chapter 8, it uses the expression God's perfect love. And you can look up the word agape in your Greek dictionary, study it online to see what the word agape means, and if what we understand to be unconditional love applies to that. In fact, Russell M. Nelson, I'll put this in the links in the comments section about the link to this incident article where President Russell M. Nelson talked about God's love. And he says, no, it's not unconditional. This is not a correct understanding. It's like free agency are using the incorrect name of the church. These expressions have wormed their way into the church and wormed their way into the brains and the souls of members, and it's giving them incorrect ideas about the nature of God. So here's another question. This is something one of my BYU professors talked about. I think it's a valid question. If God's love is unconditional, how is that any different from salvation by grace alone, where you just confess the name of Jesus and you're saved regardless of anything you do? If God's love is unconditional, how are those two things different? Well, let's go into the title section. Yokefellows, this is point 3, Yokefellows. When I was in the MTC, President Howard W. Hunter gave a talk about Christ's yoke and taking Christ's yoke upon you, that's the opening hymn for this thing. If in the comments section, I always put an opening hymn in. So this one's from Handel's Messiah, about the nature of the yoke. And so is following Christ easy or hard? Well, it's a yoke, so you're putting weight upon your shoulders. But out of all the yokes you could choose, it's certainly a very easy one. Talk to your friends who are addicted to drugs. Are you a fulfilled person when you're a drug addict? The two ladies at work who are refugees from Ukraine coming here to America. Well, yeah, that was painful leaving your country that's been invaded, but certainly you're a lot safer here in the United States than you are in a active, a hot military zone. It's not even demilitarized; it still is active. When you study physical education or with training, these videos that I watch called Fitness Blender, they always talk about good pain and bad pain. And when we talk about the problem of pain, C.S. Lewis and other areas, when you're talking about theodicies, about how you defend God, do we make a distinction between good pain and bad pain? Someone with peripheral neuropathy, you always have to be very, very careful about your feet so you don't step on stuff because you can't feel pain. And if you can't feel pain, that's a problem. Good pain and bad pain, a good yoke and a bad yoke. Point 4, Matthew 12:14. Yep, that's secret combinations. The term is not used in the New Testament and none of the Gospels, but anyone who's read the Book of Mormon or any of the restorations, Book of Mormon, Pearl of Great Price, you understand, yeah, this is how the devil operates, is secret combinations. Secret combinations destroy the Nephites, and secret combinations will destroy our country, and secret combinations crucified Christ. Just pay attention to the secret combinations involved. Like I said, the term isn't used, but pay attention to the behavior. So, point 5, all things diabolic. Yes, I am going there. So, casting out evil spirits, people being possessed, sons of perdition. First of all, why are those things in the New Testament? Why do we have them recorded? If, we're not supposed to talk about these things, or we need to move on to another subject, why are they there in the scriptures? God revealed that stuff because we are supposed to understand these things. In fact, you read in section 76 where God shows the vision of the fate of the sons of perdition to many people. So why is it important that many members of the church understand the fate of the sons of perdition? They get shown for a little bit and it gets closed up quickly, but many members of the church get this revealed to them. And why do many members of the church need to understand the fate of the sons of perdition? So you have this discussion, and then it gets clarified in the Joseph Smith translation about where he cast out this evil spirit, and it comes back with 7 other spirits. And that may be an allusion to Mary Magdalene, who was possessed by 7 spirits. Not as bad as Legion, but you have a person cast out a spirit, and the 7 evil spirits come back and take possession of the person. And that's not saying don't cast out evil spirits or don't repent. It's talking a little bit about relapse. I'd recommend reading chapter 27 in the Joseph Smith manual, where he talks about the bitter fruits of apostasy and the nature of people who leave the church, how they turn around and just sink their fangs into the necks of the prophets, just pumping venom. And they want to screw up members, they screw up the apostles, cancel culture to the apostles. Pay attention. It's something you really need to understand about what happens when people apostatize. They turn their backs on the church, because it's a very real thing, and it talks about that in the Book of Mormon. Okay, sons of perdition now. First of all, before talking about this, I'd recommend using the study helps, the Guide to the Scriptures, the topical guide. Use the Encyclopedia of the Incorrect Name of the Church. The Encyclopedia of Mormonism is a good resource. Also, this book called the Encyclopedia of Joseph Smith Teachings. And so read what the prophets have to say and not what your mission buddy said. Not what the gossip is in Quorum or Relief Society, but pay attention to what the scriptures have to say about the natures of sons of perdition. It first gets introduced to Alma 39, and then in section 76 again, it talks about the nature and fate of the sons of perdition, but also in section 132, which is the section about marriage. And so there's a connection between sons of God's love, the sons of perdition, and the sealing power. And put those all together, pay attention, and make sure you're studying and praying for understanding so that you don't go off half-cocked. Now, this is get to the point. We're doing some really quick stuff here because I also, like you, I have a busy Saturday. Matthew 12:36. Christ talks about every idle word that is going to come back to haunt us, because we'll be judged by our idle words, which is taught in the Book of Mormon. So think about not just the way in which we gossip about people, but think about this. Every idle word, every idle tweet. When you just sit there and you retweet or repost something without paying attention to it, you're going to be judged by that. Even the small actions, because the small actions lead to big things, as it's taught in the Book of Mormon. Yeah, pay attention to the Book of Mormon. Recommend it, reading it in tandem with the Bible. So here we are at 9 minutes, and let's do the Christ quotient. As I said, this is the New Testament, so everything is the Christ quotient. You see how Christ interacts with things in a day-to-day setting, where you have things when Christ appears to people, the visions, like the first vision or at the Kirtland Temple, he's there, he delivers his message, and he moves on. But this is when Christ is hanging out with people, he's walking roads, he's falls asleep in a ship. And so it helps us understand, okay, how did Christ navigate the terrestrial world? Another thing, too, like I said earlier, is we have the stuff about possessions and people getting possessed, exorcisms, and sons of perdition. And it's in there for a reason, because it may be going on. And if we sort of block ourselves. I must not think about this thing. Let's talk about, let's plan a ward activity and refreshments. We're leaving ourselves vulnerable. Not wearing your temple garment, that creates a level of vulnerability. And I'm not saying you become a son of perdition by not wearing the temple garment, but it does cause problems, and it does leave you vulnerable to spiritual attack. And understanding this triangle of God's love, is it unconditional or not? The nature of the sealing power. Joseph Smith said that there were reserves put on the seal, and the nature of possession and sons of perdition. Well, that's actually more of a rectangle. So pay attention. These things are interrelated, and they affect us. Read section 50, the first two verses, about the connection between teaching and evil spirits. The last thing is taking upon Christ's yoke. In a certain sense, that just means following Jesus Christ. But it also means you are pulling a load. You're doing the work of the church. You're doing keeping the commandments, and you're pulling a weight. And everyone's pulling a weight, but the weight you're pulling is different. It's a holy weight. And also, as President Howard W. Hunter pointed out, that you're standing side by side with a God, with Jesus Christ, and it's you and Jesus Christ pulling the load. And relying upon Christ, wholly upon Jesus Christ, well, that's the point.